Hello, I wanted to talk about the recent discoveries in the pyramid. In the news in November of last year, there was a discovery of a hidden chamber in the pyramid. And they used muon scanning. There appears to be a big void above the Grand Gallery in the Great Pyramid. So there are three main pyramids on the Giza plateau, at least three. The Great Pyramid, the Second Pyramid, and the Third Pyramid. The Great Pyramid is of great interest. So recently there were scans using infrared of a side block that had a different temperature towards the base of the Great Pyramid. So the base here on the pyramid, then the other void was found here using muon scanning recently, and there's even a third like void further down, as if there was a opening and then another entrance. So there's been this type of scanning before, and what they found was a spiral ramp going around the inside of the pyramid, so that blocks can be taken probably from a causeway that was filled with water, and as they were building it, the blocks were laid in the pyramid. So the second and third pyramids can be compared to the Great Pyramid. The third pyramid is thought to be at the 26th century BC when it was thought to be built, although there were two sarcophagus found in the third pyramid, one with wood. They stuck a wood sarcophagus in the third pyramid. There was a stone box with a mummy inside. It got lost at sea, and they were thought to be vastly different in ages on the third pyramid. So 26th century BC for the third pyramid. So how does that, that's not even getting into the second pyramid, which is connected to the Sphinx. The second pyramid is connected to the Sphinx with underground tunnels. In fact, there's, one might say, catacombs and labyrinths under the Giza plateau. 7 layers down in the middle of the causeway between the Sphinx and the second pyramid was a burial chamber for Ramses. So the second and third pyramid are very, very old. There was sarcophagus found in the third pyramid. 2 of them, but they were very different in ages. Now, all 3 of these pyramids are built on rock outcroppings, including the Sphinx. So those rock outcroppings were sacred places. Who knows how long ago? So the Great Pyramid. So the base of the Giza plateau was prepared to put, around the outcroppings. The blocks were placed. So most people don't realize is that one of the early pharaohs actually ordered the destruction of the pyramids, and it took all of their armies and workers, and after 8 months they stopped. They couldn't do it. They would take a block off and it would fall off and get buried deep into the sand, and they couldn't retrieve the blocks in the sand. They couldn't even destroy the pyramids. So that's one misconception. Another misconception is that these Egyptians didn't have the wheel. They had the chariots, and it's not that difficult to make a wheel. There's evidence that some of the blocks on the Giza plateau are recycled from great antiquity, and that's almost a cliche. Time immemorial, great antiquity. You hear that every time someone brings up the pyramids, right? But it is true. So there was outcroppings at the place that was already a sacred site. So as the religions changed, possibly the sites became different in their meaning for their religion. There is an author, Christopher Dunn. I'm going to be putting up a link here, and he was exploring the machining of the Great Pyramid and the surrounding structures, and not only are the blocks uniform in thickness, but their accuracy is very precise in the decimal places, right? So it's one thing to have blocks that are equal shaped, and it's another for the precision, but to have both is just mind-boggling in great antiquity. So there are numerous books, and that book by Christopher Dunn is called The Giza Power Plant. So there are numerous books that take off from the Giza power plant theory, and theorizing that maybe there was machinery inside the Great Pyramid. There are reports of finding machines inside the Great Pyramid. Now I found just referenced in this book here. I'm still looking for the original source material for that, for the reference. So what's interesting about the this news cycle is that in Kosovo, so a long time ago, Kosovo was probably, you know, the Siberian area was probably known as Hyperborea. Supposedly Apollo would travel to the Oracle of Delphi, collect his tributes, and go back up to Hyperborea. So when Apollo, one of the Titans or the Olympians, also ancient, legendary in nature, he would go up to Hyperborea, and so they're finding megalithic structures up once known as Hyperborea. But in the news cycle, there's some 20,000-year-old blocks in a structure that kind of reminds me of Stonehenge, but when you turn over some of these blocks, there's transformers in there. So a lot of people are saying, oh, they must have fashioned the stone around these transformers, and it is part of their function. And no, it's these machines are fossilizing and turning to stone. They're so old. And the pictures of this transformer. So this transformer, they're calling a transformer, there's a circuit diagram. So that doesn't look like a transformer the way electronics and electricians view what a transformer is in modern times. Like we've kind of maybe overlooked something, or we're not using electricity the way the ancients did. First of all, finding a coil that's embedded in stone like this, it's an out-of-place artifact. Mind-boggling. It's 20,000-year-old. What can only be described as a transformer to our modern eyes. I've looked at this. I have an idea of what it is. I'm not going to say what I think it is. When you look at these pictures, you probably have an idea of probably what this is. But what happens if this is the machinery that was taken out of the Great Pyramid and they brought it back up to Hyperborea, or they were commonplace, these machines. This is your machinery for the global ancient power grid that people are talking about. Giza, everything is on a line. In other words, the Great Pyramid in the center of all landmass connects to all the other sites around an equator that looks like the equator was shifted. So if you start plotting all of these ancient sites, including Easter Island, all these sites, they're in straight lines to another, but like so during an ice age, probably the equator was the only place that didn't have ice, so that's the only place they could live. So this transformer from Kosovo is part of that ancient power grid. It's not just the pyramid is sitting there. It's full of machinery. When they open that big chamber, it's going to be filled with this machinery, and they're going to freak the fuck out. They're going to, like, they're not going to be ready. for what's inside. You know, ancient transformers. So when you go and you're a General Electric employee and you go make a transformer, it has to be a certain specification. When you use that transformer, it's for already a specification. You plug it in, right? It's for the diameter of wire, the number of turns, the coil. It's all mathematically known what the transformer does, how much it operates, how long it'll last, what it's for, all this stuff, right? You look at this transformer from Kosovo that's 20,000 years old. It's not recognizable as anything we would use today. There's a famous Serbian scientist who did work in this area. I'm not going to say it because it's a very sensitive topic. If you just go making videos involving radio electronics, alternating current, DC current, it touches on, people are very sensitive. Their egos are blown that their egos are blown that they had the wheel. Can you imagine? They open up the pyramid and they find an ancient power grid power plant, right? They'll say, a lot of people say, well, they worked with stone, they preferred stone. And then other scholars will say, oh, everything's made of stone, it must be the Stone Age. You have a giant transformer that's turned to stone, right? So this begs the question, how many of these megalithic sites have machinery inside? So if you look at the third pyramid, some of the blocks are halfway finished with those knobbies on the side, and then it's smooth as glass, and then it's half finished. So not only are the blocks sawed, some of the blocks are sawed like a buzzsaw, like I don't know, some sort of ancient, really nice chainsaw with you just can't cut a block with a saw. It has to be some sort of power device, you know. So they could have been using the water right there. There's enough water, fluidics. If you just have a fluidic scientist there, he goes ape shit looking at the possibilities of the labyrinth tunnels there. Some of them are fluidic chambers, mathematical, fluidic, mechanistic, electromagnetic type of chambers with a Pelton wheel. So they have a Pelton wheel in the Petra Museum. That's a Pelton wheel. So so there's a 20,000-year-old transformer found in Kosovo. It's probably like what they had in there in the pyramid, full of machinery of some kind, right? Not only ancient power grids, the locations of the three pyramids. The third pyramid corresponds to the moon, the second pyramid corresponds to Mars, and the Great Pyramid corresponds to the Earth. Were they sending signals? So the three pyramids on the Giza plateau, most people say it points to Orion's belt. So if the base of the third pyramid corresponds to the moon, the diameter of the moon, the base of the second pyramid corresponds to the diameter of Mars, and the third pyramid corresponds to the diameter of the Earth. So if they're all three pointing to Orion's belt, that means that the The Great Pyramid is pointing to one of the stars of Orion's belt, not 3 stars. One of the stars is of interest. I won't get into what star the Great Pyramid is pointing to. So, there's a time delay if you, since the diameter and the bases correspond, so it's an antenna, right? So like, the percentages are easily recognizable in radio electronics. Wavelength of your antenna corresponds to frequency and so forth. So if you were sending a signal from the second pyramid to Mars, it would take you 13 minutes to reach Mars. Let me see here. I have some notes. On this. When you brainstorm, all you have is your iPhone, and you're like, fuck! Okay. The third pyramid, known as the Pyramid of Menkaure, thought to have been constructed in the 26th century BC. 2 sarcophagus found, 1 wood and 1 stone. The wooden mummy dated to 2,000 years before the present. The stone mummy was lost at sea. The height of the third pyramid is 65 meters or 213 feet. The base is 102.2 meters by 104.6 meters or 335 feet by 343 feet. So the base of the third pyramid is 0.005% the diameter of the moon. So when you make antennas, you take a percentage of your wavelength for your antenna. If the third pyramid is not an antenna for the moon, you could use it as one. They should clean them up. Put the the Egyptians could have a veritable monopoly on a radio telephone system going to the moon. So let's see, the second pyramid. The second pyramid of Giza, known as the Pyramid of Khafre. Linked to the Sphinx, the height is 448 feet. The base length is 706 feet. This is 0.003% the diameter of Mars. So you should humble yourself right away when you hear this. These pyramids are corresponding to radio transceiver antenna. So that's one hell of a coincidence. Same thing, if the Egyptian authority set up their duplex communication system with Mars, they could put their equipment inside the second pyramid, and it would be a duplex transceiver to Mars. The Great Pyramid, the base, is 756 feet. This is 0.0018% of the Earth's diameter. So again, there's no coincidence like that. I mean, not only are the great wonders of the world, they happen to correspond to radio electronics. So the radio delay from Earth to Moon is 2.4 to 2.7 seconds because the Moon is, you know, goes in kind of a oval with the same face pointing to the earth. So if you noticed how the pyramid, the third pyramid, the base is not equal. One side of the base is different and the other side of the base is different, and the moon wobbles that same amount in its orbit. It's impossible that these figures line up like that. The planet Mars, the radius is 2,106 miles, an orbit of 687 days. The distance to Earth is 33.9 million miles. The radio delay is approximately 13 minutes to Earth. How much has 13 come up in any kind of literature? All the time. So that's so, you know, the radio tower theory of the pyramids. Going back to time immemorial.